From Geppetto Studios in New Freedom, Pennsylvania, welcome to the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast, your home for inclusive, positive geek culture, where we talk about movies, comics, music, books, and whatever else we feel like. Please welcome your host,
Dogs something.
Brad Mendenhall.
Hey kids, it is episode 250 of the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast. Wow, 250 of these. That's pretty cool. Anywho, it is a good one. Returning friend Luke Allen is here and brought with him fellow director, writer, producers Amy Munt and Gareth Thomas. Very excited, returning to the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast, writer, director, all-around good guy, producer, Luke Allen. Luke, welcome back. And it's funny, when you first came on the show, I made a big deal of calling you the podcasting prodigy, but quite frankly, we've been associated that long. You're just a guy now.
Yeah, well, give me till March. March, I'm 18. We'll leave it to that point. I can be a prodigy for a month and a half, and then I'll return to normal guy status.
Then you're just a dude.
You won't want me on anymore.
You are always welcome. For one reason, you're always welcome is you always bring amazing friends, and you brought two people with you today. So introduce who you brought.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be hopefully talking a little less today as I can, because this is something I'm excited to be a part of, but it's not my project for once. We're here with Amy Munt, who we call NASA for reasons that'll be explained later on, who is the writer-director of a new project called Sweatheart, and my fellow co-producer on it, Gareth David Thomas.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, hi.
Real excited to talk with everybody. Luke is always a joy to have on, and Amy especially. Basically what happened is Luke messaged me. He's like, hey, you got to check out the Kickstarter, or was it Indiegogo or Kickstarter? I forget which service.
Indiegogo crowdfunder.
Indiegogo for Sweetheart, which is going to be written and directed by Amy. Amy, give our listeners the elevator pitch for Sweetheart if you can.
Essentially what it is it is the final phone call between two lovers. And they're in difficult situations, they're both in two different places. It kind of involves some, war and corrupt politics. And it's just focusing on that final conversation and like the last things you'd say to your soulmate, I guess, or your lover, your significant other. Yeah, so saying goodbye, coming to terms with that loss before it's even happened.
And what's interesting is the video that's associated with the Indiegogo. There's a lot of visuals to it, as well as some narration explaining the project. I've seen 1,000 Indiegogo ads or Kickstarter. It's rare. It's not unheard of, but it's rare where I'm so intrigued by not just what's going to happen, but just what's this going to be? Because the plot as you described it, and you have, it matches up very well with the description that you have on the write-up on Indiegogo, is very intriguing. But the visuals in the video are real interesting. And I don't know what this is going to be in the best way possible. It's not like it's just going to be dialogue heavy and sort of like a closed room sort of wordplay and anything like that. Or is there going to be just a lot of fascinating visuals and where the dialogue isn't really important, or a mix? I'm really interested in what the final product is because I know I'm going to like it, but I have no idea what it's going to be. And I have been following pop culture and movies and TV and basically anything entertainment. I followed it long enough where usually 5 minutes into anything, I know what's going to happen pretty well down to it. And it's something frustrating for anybody who watches something with me. It's like, okay, well, Cheryl there, she's pregnant. It's like, how can you tell? It's like, I can just tell. She has a queasy look on her face. She's pregnant. And we're going to find that out in the second act. Her boyfriend's going to freak out. And then at the end, he's going to buy her a stuffed animal. And he says he's going to be happy to be a dad. And, oh, by the way, she's going to have a miscarriage at the end of it. And it's not going to mean anything.
I mean, when I first started writing Sweetheart, I think I always had the idea that it's going to be a final phone call, and I haven't been shy about telling the audience that, because I think, as you said, there are a lot of projects that get so predictable and you can tell where it's going to end up from the beginning. And just the fact that when you start watching the film, you get the sense that both these characters are in two completely different scenarios and settings, and it's just so like, one of them's not going to make it. I think the vibe is there from the get-go. So it's like, I don't want to shy away from that. I don't want it to be like, try and make it a massive like plot twist and be like, have the audience be like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming, because I think it's obvious.
The expectation of it is what makes it what it is as well, I think, in reading the script. And I've read a lot of scripts. I've recently become in the lucky position that, albeit virtually, a lot of scripts have found their way upon my desk per se. And I'm always like really excited when someone wants my thoughts. But it's about 20 odd pages, the script for Sweetheart. And I was in tears by the end of it. And to be so moved by the script was when I got very excited when the follow-up message was, would you like to come and help work on it? And it's just so, yeah, it's, I think to me, in reading it, the fact that we knew it was the final phone call, and that's where so much of it is based, is that as much as they know it's their final phone call, it aligns you with them better, and it makes it all the more emotional because you know what inevitably is coming. And I think that's such an incredible bit of writing and narrative that I wish I could do.
It's also really brave, I think, to like you said, you haven't made it yet, to pitch it as what it is. No kind of surprises, nothing holding nothing back, saying this is what it is, and I'm confident that the script that we've got here is enough that I don't need to hide anything. This is what it's going to end up being. I think it's a really brave choice, and it stands out as that. And if you'd seen the script, you wouldn't think it was a brave choice at all, because it totally backs it up.
Yeah, I mean, my goal as well is like, I do believe that you can tell a story that has the ending already written out, and you can still make the audience feel so many emotions. Luke told me like he cried after reading it. I was like, no one's ever cried at my script before. To know that I've captured him just through reading,
it's a good sign, definitely.
It's a strange feeling as well, isn't it? Like, because I did a couple of dramas. I now definitely think I prefer the comedy. But I remember a couple people coming out of a screening with tears down their face. And to see someone crying as a result of something you've done, and then to see it as a good thing, goes against all human responses to that.
And it's hard when you write and when you create or when you write, but especially writing, I feel, where you put your stuff out there. And Amy, how long have you been working on the script for Sweetheart?
Well, I actually started writing it just over a year ago. I'd done the first draft, and it's crazy to look back because the first draft, I hadn't even named the characters. It was literally just man and woman, and there was just so almost transparent. Like, there wasn't really a lot of give and information. So like, obviously, I don't think the other two have seen the first draft, so maybe we'll get a treat later. But just to see it have grown so much in the past year is crazy, to be honest. And we've gone through a whole rebirth on the project. That means like, I've changed the people, I've changed the producers, I've changed the script, I've changed the complete like the way I've angled the story as well. Like, so many things have changed, and now it's really finally getting into that phase of like, I feel confident with the people and the script and stuff that we're nearly at a place to film it, and all we need is just the money and the support from the local people.
And it does take guts to recognise that you need to make changes on something you put time into. It's not an easy thing to do. I speak from personal experience. When you love a project, a concept you come up with, and maybe you've got attached to certain people along the way, and you get to a point you think, you know what, for this to work, I've got to make changes. I've got to make some tough decisions. It's not easy.
No.
Definitely, it definitely is the right thing to do. And I think I'm not just saying that because that's when you brought us on. It's not just a compliment to us. But even if it wasn't, if you were just telling me this just cold, I would still say that is a noble, brave choice to make.
Well, there's also a thing where you work on this for a year, and often when you are creating something like that, you forget what has the power and what has the impact. And there's something so crazy, but also so satisfying. And I've written, and I put a book out. I had worked on it for 2 years, and the book finally came out, and all of a sudden, people that I knew who expressed frustration or anger or joy at what the characters went through. And it's like, oh my God. First off, thank God they liked it. But second off, it's like, oh, I forgot that this can theoretically have power. When you get that emotional reaction, and it's so scary, is like, what happens if they don't like it? Or maybe even worse, if they buy it and then they just throw it on top of a pile and it's like, oh yeah, my friend wrote that. I don't really read or whatever. Or they read it and it doesn't have any impact at all. And it could be so satisfying that Luke has an emotional reaction to it. And I'm really interested because that's just the script, and you have such great visuals that have been shown in the clips and the footage available on Indiegogo, which, Amy, that sort of brings me to my next question. Do you see yourself as, a director who's writing something that they want to produce, that they want to show? So, you take it from the visual first and then, have the words to sort of get where you want? Or do you see yourself as a writer who you want to make sure that it's done the way you see it in your head, so you're going to direct it as well?
So that's a tricky question because, on the surface it's simple, but because it's like it fluctuates between both. My main way I describe myself is I'm a storyteller. I tell stories and I want to capture people's emotions and put them onto a screen. And it's like I find myself writing and I'm writing and then I'm like, oh, I know how I'm going to direct the actor, or I know how I want this shot to look. I know how I want this to transition from that. And it's like, then the director side of me comes into the writing and it's just like, it's quite like two tones sometimes. It's different. And I think it depends on the project as well and the nature of the project, depending how serious I'm getting or what kind of emotions I want. Yeah, it kind of comes in hand and sometimes I'm a writer, sometimes I'm a director writing, and it's just, yeah, it's a difficult one to answer, I guess, for me, because I just see myself as someone trying to tell the story of a person that doesn't exist.
And yet somehow you were willing to travel 4 hours to work and hold the microphone on a film for someone you'd never met, which is how we know each other, is insane to me. I'm glad you did, because we wouldn't be here, but...
We all are.
Probably one of the best decisions I've made in my career so far was actually travelling so far. But yeah, we literally wouldn't be here. I think after we wrapped Gareth was when I was talking about dropping my producer I had at the time to bring you on, and we was kind of talking about that. Obviously, we wouldn't have had that conversation if I wasn't there.
Wrap party at Wetherspoons. That's what that was. Yeah, it's insane, really, the whole ripple effect thing. And it sounded like I brought it up to just plug the film that we made. That
you so did.
I wish I was that I'd thought that all through. There was maybe a tiny part, but I did a whole show on here a year ago to talk about that. But yeah, it's got a message from Amy on Facebook. It was just over a year ago now, back in January, which was I'd put on some Facebook group that I was looking for crew for this film, and then I realised to your listeners, assuming a lot of them are based in America, the ratios of how far things are probably isn't as big as it seems. I get a message from someone coming from Essex, and we're in Shropshire, which is said a 4-hour drive, which is in the scheme of England a big thing. So yes, she put that message there and said, can I come and help out and be a runner or something? And I remember for most of pre-production, I was planning stuff out, and I was yeah, but that girl from Essex isn't going to come. I can just, it's too far. She'll have a reason to not come. And then you did come, and you were amazing on sound. And now we're all working together pretty often, both on stuff you've written, and of course we've still got you on sound.
Folks, you don't understand the value of showing up and being reliable to show up, because so many amazing things can happen if you just show up. If you show up on time, if you have a good attitude, and if you're willing to learn, amazing things can happen. I've seen it in every walk of life, from fun stuff that I've done to professional stuff, where so many people just don't bother, and they rob themselves of opportunities, of relationships, of sometimes just a fun, crazy story. And I get it, because I have my own sort of weird, sometimes introverted personality, where sometimes the most difficult thing for me to do is to be there. But if you find something like this where, Amy, it sounds like you saw what you thought could be an interesting project and could be an interesting story, and stuff happened because of that, and you showed up.
Yeah, I mean, what I saw, because I mean, about a year ago on the 8th or something of January was when I reached out to Luke. I was just on Facebook groups, really trying to find on-set experience.
And those film Facebook groups are so toxic.
I was just like, I came across obviously Luke's post and I was like, let's just ask. If you don't ask, you don't get, that whole saying, you know, and it's so true. Like, if you can get yourself in that situation, if you're truly determined to be somewhere, you know, like as I am determined to be a filmmaker, a director, if you're truly determined, time, money, travel, it shouldn't matter. Obviously, you know, money's a big thing and a problem for many people, but if you're that determined, you'll find a way.
Yeah, all I was going to say, I think it's for anyone listening who's like maybe got an opportunity like this coming up, and maybe they're a bit nervous, thinking, "Oh, what if I'm not good enough? Or what if everyone else knows more than me?" Whatever you do, whatever stage you're at, no matter how big you get or how successful you are, you're always going to worry. One part of you thinking, obviously, it gets easier. You're always going to think, "Oh yeah, but am I as good as the guy who's directing this, or am I going to be expected to do something I've never done before?" Everyone feels like that.
When you're directing it yourself, you feel that. I was turning up to Reduce to Clear, having written it, you know, well, co-written it, co-directed it. I'm turning up thinking, am I as good as the actors?
But get past that, because it's so worth it if you do.
Yeah, everything you do is like a learning curve, you know, and you can always like just ask questions, you know, just ask. The worst anyone's going to say is, can you just stop asking questions and focusing, like putting yourself in a place of learning. So,
and understandably, unpaid film projects get a lot of slack, and in some ways it makes absolute sense. You know, it's an industry where a lot of people do get exploited. But what you do find with unpaid stuff, when it's on this level, you meet nice people and you're just happy doing what you're doing. I know, for example, that the people that come and work with me on my projects where I wasn't able to afford to pay them are the people who are passionate about what they do and not passionate about making money. And there's a big joke, and we joke a lot as well, you know, about pizza and exposure. And that's what all the student filmmakers or indie filmmakers or whatever can afford to do. But I truly do believe that any of us, are we to work on stuff which I do truly see ourselves moving towards, stuff where we are going to be able to start paying people properly. I'm going to that actor who worked for me for free 2 years ago. I'm going to that cameraman who gave up his afternoon.
You're damn right you are.
I'm not going to the person who's got the biggest projects attached to them and has maybe got more experience behind them, but isn't the person who is as passionate about getting stuff done. I mean, as the people who I gather myself around.
Well, you know, there's a lot of jokes about it, and there's Twitter feeds and everything about doing stuff for exposure. But I think it's become a little too. That is referring to, and you've seen it where billion-dollar movie studios offering like a quote-unquote contest so you can design a poster for their films. Basically, just a way to get people who are killing themselves to try to make a living to do work for them for free when they have a ton of money to actually pay people. Or someone going to a business or whatever is like, the whole thing about social media influencers is like, give me a free stay at your hotel or a free meal, and I'll talk about it on my Instagram post or stuff like that. That's sort of exposure thing. Or when you go to people who are doing it professionally and just out of nowhere ask them to do stuff.
Which, to be fair, I have done, and sometimes that does work, if you're nice.
But you're not making millions off your movies.
No, if there were money being made, which sometimes there will be, and who knows, you know, Sweetheart could become a big thing. I hope it does, and I also know that were it to be the case, I hope I'm not digging a hole for you here, Amy, but that were it to become, you know, a big success, that you'd be giving that back to the people, the actors who put their work in.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even so far, like, you know, yourself and Gareth and the other 3 or 4 people associated on the project to just put in so much work and time. And the fact that, you know, the project's gone through a lot the past few months, and I've had a lot of support of you guys especially. And to just know that every time there's a change, like the dates change or something like that, you guys stick by through and through. I'd be stupid not to give something back if I can. You know, because these are like lifelong relations I've got. I know that, you know, career-wise, friendship-wise, like...
100%. The way I sort of sum it up when I'm having to explain it for the projects that we do is that I basically say to him, I can't guarantee this is going to make any money, but if it does, so will you. is the best way to put it across. I'm not promising anything, but if we ever get there, you'll get your cut.
And Amy's doing a great job as well in ensuring that no one who's working on it is at a loss. That's where this crowdfunder is coming in as well, is that there's some of us who are having to travel distance or having to stay somewhere, which is something which could be very difficult and could truly be the reason in which people don't work on stuff. I know that for, examples that I've only just got to the place where I've started crowdfunding to pay for people's accommodation, and it's such a under thought about part of things that she's not raising money
because she wants to get her hair done while the show's going on or filming.
Yeah, it's all going straight into making sure that everyone there is happy while they're there, that no one's at a loss. And I think once you start doing that, it takes the pressure off a little bit. Gareth and I aren't going to be like this anyway, but, hypothetically, if we were sleazy producers, we're not going to be sat there thinking, I just spent, 100 quid on the train fare to come here and back, and, it's not working out, and, I wish I hadn't done this. That it's all going to go smoothly, obviously, but it also is going to be fun, because if it stops being fun, then what's the point?
Amy, you mentioned, this is a ticklish subject, you have changed producers, and you brought Gareth and Luke on after ending a relationship with the previous producer. And it's funny, producer's one of those weird titles, and I have friends who are producers. My friend Ray Esposito, who's been on the show a bunch of times, has produced documentaries that have been on Netflix and Amazon Prime, but people still don't know what a producer is. Partially because it can really change from project to project and need to need. What were you not getting from your previous producer that you are getting from Luke and Gareth?
With my past producer, I didn't get enough respect or enough time off of them. It's really frustrating when you message your producer and you say, hi, can you make this phone call to this person or look into this for me? And they leave you on red or delivered for 5 days. I am fortunate enough to be in a group chat with Gareth and Luke where chatting never stops.
It doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't always. I'm imagining it doesn't always feel fortunate enough.
Sometimes it depends on the conversation, but most of the time I know that they're pretty active, and if I've got a question to ask one of them, I know that I can just ping them a message within, the same day. Most of the time it's answered and then it's dealt with, and it's just I'm not in a position to ask for a lot of respect, but just as a basic human, just answering my messages, that's nice. And to have producers that can now answer my messages, help me with my worries, concerns and questions and stuff, and actually help me make the film is a lot better than the position I was in beforehand. It was like I was doing all the weight and all the work, and sometimes I just need to put something on someone else to make my job a little bit easier, and that's what Gareth and Luke helped me do.
It takes so much of you to put it on to someone else, to go, look, could you sort this bit out for me? It's very scary to pass that power on to someone, that if someone then doesn't do it, I can't imagine how that would feel.
Speaking from experience with previous ambitious projects that I've been in charge of, one of the big problems there, is as exciting as it all was, and loads of people were really committed to it, was I didn't let go enough, and it all fell apart, essentially, because I was doing too much. And to be fair to people, it wasn't like they couldn't have ddone it. It was my fault for not trusting anyone, because not wanting to let go of anything. And since then, I took a couple of years out on that and come back with Reduced to Clear, and as Nasser and Luke had been talking about. And I recognised then that this needs to be, you need to find out what are people good at, find people you trust, find out what they're good at, and let them do it.
You're going to have to explain Nasser.
Oh, yeah. So Nasser, the reason I call Amy Nasser, and why a lot of people now call Amy Nasser, is that the day I met her on Reduced to Clear, I couldn't remember her name. I needed to help me with something, and I'm quite a rude person as a human being. And I just hey, and she was wearing a Nasser t-shirt, and I said, "Oi, Nasser, over here." And she knew that it was her then, so she came over, and it just kind of stuck from there. And now everyone calls her Nasser.
I thought it was I went to go introduce myself, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm Amy," and he was like, "You looked at my top," and was like, "Nasser." And then it just kind of clicked, and then, yeah, you called me from there, and it's just like...
We've now had people say that they just assumed your name was NASA. Yeah, but no, it's one of the politer ones of Gareth's nicknames. One of the other ones that's stuck is your assistant, Abigail Galtry-Matthews, who Gareth just refers to as long names.
Again, so does most other people now. Most other people call her long names now.
And seem to ignore the fact that you're Gareth Owen David Thomas.
Yeah, that's quite a long one as well, to be fair. But yeah, occasionally people try and give me a nickname, and it happened recently, and I was like, look, you're new around here, Helen. I'm going to let you off. But people don't give me nicknames. I give them nicknames. This is not a two-way street.
For example, you mentioned Helen. When I said that actress who helped me out a couple of years ago, that's exactly who I was referring to. Is that those nice people you gather yourself around? Like I think I mentioned here a while ago, Brad, that I was when I made my film Unstable, which was the first time I'd worked with professional actors. That this actress who I'd met that day, pretty much, other than like occasional messages and stuff into pre-production, we ran over our schedule on the first day, and on the second day, we need to come back for filming. She was needed when she was only scheduled for one day, and she came. Did the film, and this was before I was even able to couple transport, and it was her 21st birthday, and she still turned up to come and do filming and everything else. And as soon as like that happened, it's like, these are the type of people I want to keep around me. These are the type of people who really care about the project being made. And I'm not saying that if anyone wants to work with me, they have to give up their birthday. It's that passion, and I've tangented completely off.
Going back to what Amy, I'll try and behave, what Amy was saying before about the issues with the previous producer and Reduced to Clear, and the two things combined, because I remember me and Amy having a conversation about this before we did agree to work together, and we were just getting to know each other, walking to the set and things one day. I think this kind of opened your eyes a little bit, in that the way that I spoke with you about filming and that, and a fantastic guy called Billy Bannister, who deserves a bit of a mention. He was the sound guy for Reduced to Clear, and Amy was shadowing him and learning so much from him. Is that I think, considering how Amy had been treated up until Reduced to Clear, she went away thinking, hang on a minute, I shouldn't be being treated like that. I think you thought that was the way the industry should be, and you went away from Reduced to Clear realising there are some nice guys out there who are prepared to help.
Yeah, I mean, before Reduced to Clear, I definitely had this like almost like food chain mentality. Like, there's lions, and I'm at the bottom. I'm like one of the fish or something, and it's just like people kind of talk to you as if you literally don't have a clue what you're doing. And it's, to some extent, I don't, and I'm still learning, but I've got a bit of a better brain than some people that on. And what I had with the previous producers was there was a lot of like belittling. There was a lot of like almost like making excuses for certain situations and justifying my experience with their experience. It was just like, I then went to Reduce to Clear, and the whole dynamic was just so friendly, and everyone was an equal, and it was just like, we're all just looking after each other as people, but also as filmmakers, and no one's above anyone. Like, yeah, Billy's got, years of experience on top of all of us, but, he still treated everyone the same.
Well, yeah, as a director, I looked at what you did and thought, I couldn't hold a microphone that long. It's just everyone's got a different role. They're not at a different level. And I think that's the way to see it. Is I'm reading a book at the moment called The Writer's Tale by Russell T Davies, which is an account of all of his time as writer on Doctor Who. And there's a chapter in there, because as well as writer, he was exec producer. Don't know whether you need to bleep this or not, Brad, but there's a chapter in there literally just titled Bastards, and in which he's asked, would you get very far if you were like that, if you were a horrible person? He kind of says very few people do. He said, there are some, but for the most part, they last a little bit, and then everyone realizes that they're being mistreated and they move down. And so it's obviously it is a way that unfortunately has worked for some people in the industry that can be really horrible people and really controlling. But that shouldn't be the way. That shouldn't be the way that people try and work their way up.
You can be a bastard for a long time. Sooner or later, sometimes it's a lot later, it catches up. Listen, we're talking about producers. I mean, Harvey Weinstein's in jail.
I knew that was coming.
I knew you were either going to go as far as Weinstein or settle on Joss Whedon.
Yeah, but even look at actors. Tom Hanks, universally beloved, and has a reputation for being a great guy. And people forget this, but Tom Hanks went through a 3 or 4 movie slump where it was Joe versus the Volcano and then Radio Flyer and 1 or 2 other movies in a row that just didn't catch on. and his career was sort of flagging a little bit. But Penny Marshall wanted to work with him very badly because she just liked working with Tom Hanks, and he was such a sweetheart, and she knew he would bring his A game and cast him in League of Their Own, which he was just a supporting player in that. So people sort of forget that was not a quote unquote Tom Hanks movie, and he was so great, and it was a successful movie, and boom, he got a second wind to his career. Contrast that with Russell Crowe, who I think people recognize is a very good actor, but is supremely difficult to deal with. Nobody wants to work with him. And once he lost his box office credibility, once he had those 3 or 4 movies in a row that tanked, can't really get those mainstream big budget movies. They no longer happen with him, partially because he lost his commercial viability, but also it's like, listen, if he's not going to bring eyes into the theater, why are we going to deal with this crap? Yeah, Joss Whedon, Harvey Weinstein, these are to varying degrees terrible people who got away with it because with Harvey Weinstein, Harvey Weinstein knew how to get movies made and knew how to get award consideration. Joss Whedon knew how to write stuff that appealed to a very specific audience, but they both had their own personal foibles that ended up, especially once, and it's always a thing of like, as soon as you start losing, as soon as you stop making money, then the knives come out because you no longer have the money, the prestige, and the powers that be above you protecting you because, well, you're not making us any money. It's not difficult, or it shouldn't be, to treat people with respect. Amy, I can't imagine how difficult what you're going through trying to do something creative, being a young woman, not pretending that you know everything. And people have 2 ways. When you're dealing with somebody who doesn't know something that you do know, you can either lord it over them, try to beat them over the head with your advanced expertise, or you can say, oh, cool. Hey, let me show you something. Luke, you mentioned how some of the Facebook groups were very toxic, and I'm sure that's part of it, where everyone has to prove that they're the smartest person in the room instead of trying to help other people learn stuff and share what you love.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and some of it also goes down to what we were saying before. And obviously, what I want to say as well is, like, you know, when we talk about the advantage of unpaid projects and stuff, we're never saying that people shouldn't get paid for what they do. It's just, quite frankly, you are sometimes in the position when you can't. Similarly, we're not directly approaching people who can't afford to work for free and asking them to work for free. That's not the case either. But the issue with some of those Facebook groups is that if I were working on a film and I said, you know, I think this happened, where I said, like, I need a production designer for this project, you know, I'm working on this. Straight away, people who are production designers, people who are other stuff and all the likes are, why are you making them work for free? You should be able to pay everyone. And it's like, I understand the sentiment, but also people are getting offended as if I've directly asked them.
Yeah, just scroll on, just move on. If it's not for you, keep going.
Because a lot of people are willing to do stuff like that and are willing to just, you know, jump on it. And I think that's what's important. Quite frankly, I'm taking the approach at the moment where anything that is financially feasible and doesn't conflict with any of my values, from when I finished college in June for about a year or so after, I'm saying yes to every opportunity that there is. You know, if someone says, can you come and be an extra in the background of my student film? Yes. Anything that could have the slightest chance of furthering the career? Yes.
This isn't always the case because there's plenty of unpaid stuff out there, which probably is a bit crap. But one thing for someone like Sweetheart, which has got a fantastic script, what Reduced to Clear, what this other project that I've promised not to talk about, all these different things is if you can't pay people, there is an onus on you as a writer to make sure the quality's good. Because if they're going to do it for anything, if they can't get paid, at least give them something they can stick in a showreel, which is worth having. You'd like to think if they don't do it for the money, there is a reason they're there. They're not just there for the sake of it. They must be seeing some value in it.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense as well, if you look at it like that, if you're going to go through that approach, if the script is good enough to get people to work on it for free, they're then going to think, this project's really good, I'm glad I acted in it, done the sound for it, whatever. Promote it on their thing as part of their experience showreel, and now the film's got more exposure.
Exactly.
What is interesting as well is, like, nothing against any of these people, but I know when I started filmmaking, as I think we all did, we weren't using actors. We were just using people we knew. But I remember there's some stuff I've done where like the people I knew obviously had other stuff on in their day, but it was a lot of kind of they were just doing a favor, which makes sense and was all very appreciated. What surprised me was that when it went to the scale of doing stuff like we did with Reduce to Clear, is I saw it as all these kind of fairly, I don't even know what to say fairly, all of these successful actors were, I thought, just jumping on it to lend a hand. And then, day after doing Reduce to Clear, I get an email from now frequent collaborator, Mr. Simon Fisher-Becker from Doctor Who and Harry Potter and things like that. And I get an email thanking me for the opportunity to come and do stuff. What I'm seeing is it was the realization as to why Reduce to Clear was my favourite on-set experience I've ever had, which was everyone wanted to be there. And everyone didn't just feel like they were helping out. Everyone was getting something out of it for themselves. I think that's fantastic. It's we may have just struck gold, and that might never happen again, but I truly believe it will.
I think it will. I think you've made plenty of good connections within Reduce to Clear anyway to further your career, to further everyone else's career. Like, you know, if we go back to me, obviously Reduce to Clear was an amazing experience, but I've also met so many amazing people, and 2 of them are working on Sweetheart with me. So having the level of respect that we all had for each other on Reduce to Clear was just phenomenal. And I strive to have that in all of my projects with all my connections, because there's no excuse as to why to disrespect someone. As long as you're a good person, you're a nice person, you shouldn't be disrespected, as far as I see it. It's not hard to respect someone.
Just work hard. All you got to do.
To every director, don't overlook your sound, people. Very, very common is that sound is one of the things you only notice if it's going bad. And I think it's fair to say that it's almost so separate from the other departments that so often things, just the conversations aren't had that much. I'd like to think we made quite an effort on Reduce to Clear. I'm not saying, we'll be like us, because, you know, there's a lot of other factors that come into play. But I'd like to think for the most part we made an effort. Or when I was directing, Gareth was going off to Billy and to Amy and talking with them about the sound and showing the appreciation that it stopped that kind of on-set segregation that sometimes happens where it's the sound department and everyone else. And sometimes you find some very talented people in your sound department, either in the area of sound directly, like people like Billy Bannister, in the area of suddenly the girl who's holding the boom mic has written one of the best scripts I've ever read. It's worth making those contacts.
Absolutely. But because I felt, and I hate myself for this really, is that when I first got onto the set Reduced to Clear, as the film guy, the DOP in that, then obviously we get Billy Bannister turning up, who's got all this immense experience. And I immediately sort of felt that there was like, okay, this is the one guy I might not get on with. Because it was like, obviously he's got all that experience and he's probably used to, on certain projects, the sound guy not being treated the way that other camera guys are treated. So I felt I'm going to have to work really hard to impress this guy. And by the end of the whole process and whatever we did over those 3 days, I went to shake his hand when he was leaving because he had to leave a day earlier than the rest of us. And he hugged me. And and he said, thank you for looking after me. And I was thinking, I thought you were looking after me. So it was just nice how that mutual respect grew because he saw I was prepared to work for him and he was working for me. And that's all you need to do. It's so simple.
And I think it also, to talk once again about the level of experience that happened on Reduce to Clear, was what I hope was the good stuff for you, NASA, was that we had, Billy messaged me about a couple of weeks before we were filming Reduce to Clear and said, like, I've just been called onto this, I think it was a BBC gig on the final day of filming. And he said, so if it's okay with you, also notice the fact he'd never met Amy at this point. He said, if it's okay with you, I'd like to train up my assistant over the first 2 days, and then I'll leave some of my equipment, and she can take over on the next day. It was terrifying. Honestly, I'll admit, before then, thinking he's just going to leave the equipment behind, and this person who never met is going to be taken over. But I think it was so good, and I think it was such a way to put what you'd learned to the test as well. And believe me, that day was putting the work to the test. Because that day he couldn't make happened to be the only day that wasn't in a soundproof studio.
It was a nightmare. I know Amy's trying to escape from being just known as a sound girl, but what doesn't help her in that sense is how damn good she is at it. Because on that day, obviously I was sort of obviously doing all the DOP stuff and we had to make sure the extras were loud at certain points, quiet at certain points. Considering that she came onto that set with limited experience, had 2 days with Billy, and on this last day, not only was she having to do all the things she just learned, because she was having to literally bark at extras to be quiet in the right places and like, running out of time, you guys need to be quiet now, because they weren't being, quite frankly. And to someone of her age to have that confidence was and it felt like me and her, and no disrespect to Luke and Alex, of course, because they were doing their own thing as well.
That's what you say of the directors, isn't it? Yeah.
But they were checking through the shots that had just been taken and that sort of stuff. But it very much felt that me and Amy, like, without that day being as difficult as it was, I don't think we'd be as close as we are now, because I think that the two of us had to do an awful lot as a duo that day because of how difficult the sound conditions were, and it was probably the hardest day on set I've ever had.
It was stressful, to say the least. And if it makes me sound any better, I've never worked with extras before up until that point.
It didn't show. They listened to you.
Yeah, it was definitely a weird experience, because I was like, I don't know if these people are going to listen to me, but I'm getting stressed out at the moment because I've got, some fire alarm about to go off, or like.
It was a day. It's like you don't think when you're it was seen in a bar. You don't think when you're at those places. Normally, not that I've been in many bars, but you don't think, that fridge hums, or that window allows noises of cars.
Yeah, there's so much.
5 hours for 45 seconds of footage, but it was a damn good 45 seconds.
It's my favourite of the whole film. It's my favourite. Interestingly, the place used to be a nightclub.
Gareth likes sharing this fact every time we talk about the location.
It's just something I got told, and I thought, well, that's a really cool bit of trivia, so I want to just keep repeating that wherever I can.
Funny, you bring up wrangling extras and stuff, because there's, like, Twitter feeds dedicated to, look out for that wacky extra who walks in front of Nev Campbell in the first Scream movie, and he has a red cup, and he's making weird googly eyes before wandering off and stuff. And there's so many little things that you don't think of during filmmaking, because, ambient noise, or... I didn't realize there was a train that went by at 1:15 every day. Or, it turns out these two extras are actually knew each other and are having a fight. Or whatever the craziness.
Didn't we actually once have a mother and child walk into the building and past the film set because her daughter needed the toilet and wanted to know if we had one?
Yeah, I think so. That does ring a bell, yeah.
And there wasn't any kind of weirdness about it. She walked in and it was like it was just the most normal thing. I was just like, all right, camera, can we use your loo? And it's just like...
Yeah.
What?
There's so much craziness. It all has to be wrangled. Amy, you're trying to produce a piece of art, and something that the wonderful thing about doing a short film and doing it with zero budget, this is a passion project for you. And if you had a lot of money, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure you would love to do something with money.
Yes.
Because money helps. But if you had money, you would have a lot more people with a vested interest in telling you what to do, saying, it's like, okay, well, listen, we're giving you a lot of money, so listen, can we make it superhero stuff? Because that makes money. This seems like a very personal project. Is it that you have this story to tell? Do you hope to take this to film festivals? Is this a calling card? Do you know what your next project to be?
The project after Sweetheart, I've got so many ideas. I'm constantly writing something. I've got so many things in the pipeline. I think after Sweetheart's been made and stuff, definitely get it into festivals and just share it with the world, because I think on the surface the story is like a cinematic thing to watch, and the conversation should hopefully be engaging enough to listen to, and the visual should be good enough to watch. And I want it to be like a perfect poem. I think underlying it holds that theme of grief and the unexpected and all this stuff, and I think that's something that a lot of people relate to, and having that unpredictability essence in the film as well. Obviously, we've come off the back of a pandemic, we're still going through it, no one knows what's happening next. So I think in terms of that, even though maybe that kind of theme is a bit more indirect, you should be able to pull something from the film, no matter your background, your person, your character. No matter who you are, you'll pull something from the film, the project. And I think if that's anything to go by, that's like, that's why you should give something into the project, to say the least. And to just, that's where I see all my projects being. And as you said with the superhero thing and like people giving you money and that, if someone came to me tomorrow and said, here's like £10,000 to make Sweetheart with, but can you turn the main character into this like evil villain, can fly and do magic tricks and stuff, it would be a no, because then it's just not Sweetheart anymore. Someone could give me all the money, but I have to change my idea. That's not who I strive to be as a filmmaker.
I think that's a really good point. And also, I think it's probably true of all three of us, is that I like to think, is that if someone gave you like a wad of cash, like you've just been alluding to, Amy, if they gave us a wad of cash now, we'd still make what we're making now. We wouldn't change anything.
As I said to Gareth and Luke, the project for me comes from a massive deeper place. So for someone to give me money and ask me to change the idea for that and this and stuff, I'd be doing an injustice to the deeper meaning, and that's just not something that I can do. Because I'd never forgive myself as well, but it's just if you've got enough passion in your project.
Amy, is there a director whose career you aspire to, or you?
Don't say Luke.
Ha! Well, I'm thinking the first thing that actually comes to mind where somebody who's able to, from my perspective, a director who's able to do the personal filmmaking that she wants to do, she still gets decent budgets and award consideration and stuff. Jane Campion, probably best known for directing The Piano with Harvey Keitel and Holly Hunter, and she just did the movie with Benedict Cumberbatch,
Dogs, something.
That's sort of what strikes me, because Jane Campion is Power of the Dog. She just directed it, came out last year. And she does these very personal, very dark, and sort of what she wants to do. That's what I sort of hear, but that's just perhaps just because I just listened to a podcast about Jane Campion, so she's forefront of my mind. Is there a director that you see is like, oh, that's where I could see me going? Those are footsteps that I would like to follow.
Probably not someone like I massively want to follow. There's Quentin Tarantino. He's said a lot of things, and he's got a lot of quotes that he says that I remember as I'm filmmaking and stuff like that. So if anyone, he's probably my closest thing to an idol. But I think just stuff of the people in my life so far, just being the filmmaker I want to be and tell the stories I want to be, how I want to tell them. It's just kind of strive to be, really. There's there's no massive idol up there or favourite filmmaker, and I think what's good about the industry is everyone's their own creative, everyone's got their own way of telling a story, and there's no wrong way. So it's I just want to create and make things how I see fit, and maybe apply a really good quote to something I do, from Quentin Tarantino or whoever it may be, and be myself, I guess.
Luke, I sort of want to ask you the same question, because a few days back, Anchorman 2 was on, that Adam McKay film. And there's this crazy scene at the end where they have the big fight with all the different newscasting and all the different... And it was weird because it was ridiculous and it was silly and it was borderline Naked Gun, but there was also a little bit of social commentary. And I was like, you know what? It made me think of Reduced to Clear. Because Reduced to Clear, very smart, but also wonderfully ridiculous, but sort of joyous in it. Do you have a writer/director that you look at and is like, oh, okay, yeah, I could see me going in that direction, or is a career that I wouldn't mind having some comparisons to?
I mean, definitely, to the point that I think to a lot of people it's so obvious that almost certainly Gareth and NASA know who I'm going to say. Weirdly, Reduced to Clear is maybe only reminiscent of his very early work, but for me it's Richard Curtis. I mean, Brad, of my adoration for the films of Richard Curtis through when I did 2 Minutes About Time and Christmas Actually and stuff like that. But for me, it's the overarching just joy that the films bring. It's whilst I'm loving and I'm working on some stuff with some very serious themes, and I enjoy that side of things as well. The majority of Richard Curtis's movies feel like a warm hug. That's what I really want to bring. I want to be a comfort movie. I want to make a comfort movie for someone, and so yeah, for me, it's Richard Curtis, and Richard Curtis's associate producer, script editor, and girlfriend watched Reduced to Clear the other week, so that's good to know, and got me all the more excited about. Yeah, I Richard Curtis is the type of filmmaker I aspire to be.
We've talked, well, and of course it was funny because I know you're a massive Richard Curtis fan, and then of course we did 2 Minutes About Time. I would guest on that show and had so much fun with it, and then you have Ewan McIntosh, who does not like Richard Curtis.
No, he is not a Richard Curtis fan. I think he vowed to stop watching everything from Love Actually onwards.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, well, thankfully, I didn't bring up any Richard Curtis stuff on with Ewan. But yeah, Ewan, I brought him on 2 Minutes About Time, and he's the only guest we had on who despised the 5 minutes of About Time we gave him. and just like complained about everything. And that was my first introduction to Ewan, and I was like, he's a really funny guy. I like this guy. For me, it's Richard Curtis, albeit that I don't think Ewan would be so happy about that.
But Ewan's sticking by you. I know. He believes in you. Gareth, what about you? Is there?
Yeah, there is. It's probably for me. I didn't think of this as an obvious sort of person to look up to, so to speak, until someone said, "Oh, the stuff that you're trying to do reminds me of this guy," and that's Shane Meadows. Did a lot of gritty stuff. Very British. It was recently, say recently, a couple of years ago now, The Virtues with Stephen Graham, which is basically like a lot of Stephen Graham stuff, very sort of down to earth, unearthing, very often unpleasant human interest stories, that kind of stuff. Ken Loach, again, and another example of the same sort of stuff. People who aren't afraid to show sort of the underbelly of society and really go at what's wrong with things, and not make it look too nice around the edges, and being very honest about it. Then also finding some positive within that. So it's not all doom and gloom. There's got to be something that you aspire to see a hero character, a protagonist come out of, but very much sort of going for not being afraid to sort of unearth a few things and dig deep. That's my sort of guy.
Cool. And it's funny, and I think it's something that's going to really benefit Sweetheart is the three of you give three very different answers, and yet you're able to work together so well. And probably part of it is just the respect for Amy, because this is her baby. There's a question for Amy. This is your baby. You have two very accomplished producers with you, and I'm sure a lot of feedback. How do you go about asking for feedback, or is it important to you that this is yours from start to finish? How do you sort of juggle? Sometimes we could be conflicting.
Obviously, it's my project from start to finish. If I make a decision, it's my decision. But what's good about the balance that us three have is if something doesn't fit right, if maybe there's a line in the script that just doesn't work, we're not afraid to tell each other. And so I'm constantly asking for feedback, like I send them the latest draft of the script or whatever, or if I'm composing an email to send off to people, and I'm just like, I'm asking for that feedback, and they always come back with, yes, it's great, or maybe change this. And it's like, it's always constructive, there's never like anything really critical, like that is the worst thing I've ever written. Like there's nothing like that. And
you should really test that sometime. Just
oh yeah.
To be fair, the worst thing that Amy's ever written will still be better than a lot of people, I have to say.
Yeah,
that's a compliment. If that was a compliment.
But now I'm questioning what was the worst thing I've ever written.
Oh, you didn't? You walked right into that.
No, what I'm saying is the worst thing that you've ever written, if whatever that might be at some point, it will still be better than what a lot of people can do.
To be fair, we sat down for the Rocking Horse End of Year video and watched you cringing at your early film work, which was still
really good.
One of my favourite short films I've seen in a long time.
But I will say about all three of us is that we call it a group chat, but it's really more of a writer's room in that whether it's Amy's project or Luke's project or my project, they cross over so much. It doesn't even feel like separate things.
It's weird how well it works.
Luke's a comedy guy. Nasser's like a relationship person, domestic stuff. I'm just sort of general drama, and that's just it's not even the scripts. But between the three of us, the bits about like relationships, I'm not so sure on. I know that Nasser will come back and say, "Oh, what about this line?" If I'm trying to do comedy, Luke can help with that, and we all benefit. All of the scripts I think that we write as individuals are better by the fact that we give that feedback to one another.
Yeah, we're like a strange jigsaw. We just kind of like, we shouldn't fit into place, but we do.
And I can't imagine for a while any of us making a project where the other two aren't involved in one way or another. Gareth recently handed me a project because I both Nasser and myself are now kind of working for Gareth's company, Rocking Horse, in one way or another. Gareth handed me a project on Christmas Day, I think, wasn't it?
That's my present. I couldn't afford anything else. So
you went, someone's given me this idea and I don't have time to make it. Luke, do you want it? I joke. It's a very, very good idea. But yeah, Gareth handed me this project, which, albeit we haven't got like either of your job roles officially named, but I'm popping in the group chat. Oh, we've had this idea. What do you think of this? Or preparing for that. And I'm loving how involved I'm feeling in both of your stuff, and I hope that comes across the other way as well. It's such a lovely kind of balance, and it's very weird because we are three, aside from writing as well, we are three very different people.
Yeah, we shouldn't get on at all, but somehow we do. Yeah, it's bizarre, and that helps though, because we all get those moments as human beings, whatever you do. And I'm sure Brad will be able to relate to this too. If you get those moments when you're like, do you know what, I'm just not feeling it today. I just feel like I'm up against it. I don't know where the next break's going to come from. And because we're friends as well, is we all get each other through those bits because we've all been there.
When you find those people that you want to work with and that inspire and support you, you hold them close. That's something that I've learned from doing this podcast, where when I find people like Luke, who I like having on and who I think has something interesting to say, and that's why he keeps coming back. And I would like to, before I get you guys to plug your pluggables, really enjoyed this conversation with all of you. You guys are all welcome back, either as a group or individually. Whenever you have something to plug, please come back and plug it. I want to start with Luke. Share what you have going, anything else you have going on, or anything, Reduced to Clear is out there.
Yeah, so Reduced to Clear is at an interesting level in terms of the fact that, like, we're not allowed to release it publicly because of film festivals. But if people want to watch it, they could email me, luke@rockinghorsemedia.co.uk, and I can send them an exclusive link to watch the film. But also, just that email address is available if you want to. You've got a project in the works you want me to lend a hand on, or you want to work on something that I'm doing, or anything else. I'm finding a lot of fun in jumping on a lot of stuff. I mean, I was messaging you, Gareth, wasn't I, yesterday, when I suddenly listed the number of projects I've got on.
Yeah.
None of them have got, apart from Sweetheart, and the one that you're doing, actually, both of which are far enough along production that there is actual dates in place as to when we hope things to be made. There's a lot of stuff which I'm just in pre-production on. I'm co-writing with more people than I've ever co-written with. So much so that I don't know if I could ever write solo again, because I find co-writing very fun. There's so much going on, but I always like adding more. So yeah, I think my website's down at the moment. Don't check out that. So just email me, luke@rockinghorsemedia.co.uk, or of course you could just go on to rockinghorsemedia.co.uk.
Nicking my plugs now. Well, we're all involved in this one, and these two are actually guest writers on it, which nicely sort of ties up that point about how we all work together so well. It's called Karen. It's a care home drama. We're working on a feature-length pilot episode in the summer of this year, and that's captured the imagination of a lot of people. We've got auditions coming up, obviously, this side of the pond in next month for the title character, actually. We've done things a very strange way around. And that's for the title character called Karen, who's a maverick, no-nonsense manager of a care home who's trying to survive in the 21st century when all of the red tape's coming in and common sense is going out the window a little bit. And she's still got very old-fashioned values of how it should be done. So there's a lot of comedy, there's a lot of depth.
And yet we're weirdly interesting in the way that our title character isn't our main character.
Yeah, our main character is the receptionist, this dotty receptionist called Izzy, who constantly gets things wrong, but she's the comic relief in a show that very much does cover a lot of gritty, dark issues, and she will have a fair share of gritty, dark issues later down the line herself. But yeah, so that's what Karen's all about. It's a throwback in some ways that there's lots of different characters. It might be called Karen, but like Luke said, she's not even the main character. But she supports lots of different characters in what they've got going on, very different offshoots of different storylines. So if you don't relate to one character, we'll guarantee you'll relate to someone in there somewhere. So yeah, that's Karen. Anyone's interested in getting involved, whether that's for crew, like Amy got involved with Luke all that time ago, or for casting, then it's info@rockinghorsemedia.co.uk, and we're on Instagram, which Luke actually runs, so I'll let him say that one in case I get it wrong.
Instagram is @rocking_horse_media, I believe. I'm just going to double check that myself. Yes, @rocking_horse_media. I think Facebook's just Rocking Horse Media, and on Twitter @RHMediaENT, because someone else stole Rocking Horse Media. But Rocking Horse Media and Entertainment, yeah.
So that's us.
The guest of honor, the writer-director of Sweetheart, Amy, share where people can go to donate to help fund this project.
Yeah, so there's a Indiegogo. I suppose you're going to want the link. I mean, can we put links? Is there a description box or something?
Yeah, there'll be a description, so we'll be sure to share that with the episode.
Yeah, so the link will be in the description box wherever that is, on wherever you're listening.
Or it's indiegogo.com/projects/sweetheart-a-short-film-production.
This is why I have Luke. But yeah, so just go check out the crowdfunder. If you can't donate, honestly, any donation, whether it be £1, $1, whatever, or £100, $100, euros, however inclusive we're going to be. It's so much appreciated, and it's going to go to helping the cast and crew be accommodated, looked after. It's going to go to designing the sets and costumes and everything wonderful like that. So honestly, however big or small, it's going to go a long way, I promise you. And if you can't donate anything, if you can't contribute to the project, please just share it around. Share it with your mum, your dad, your friends, your fish, whatever. Just get it out there.
If nothing else, you get to watch that campaign video.
That campaign video is really good, to be fair.
Yeah, it's a good video.
Yeah, just share the campaign video, get people interested. That's all I can ask. And yeah, Rocking Horse is obviously a massive part of Sweetheart and bringing that to life, which is where Gareth and Luke obviously come in again.
One big family, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Happy family.
Most of the time.
There is a place in this world, and it's very important for neat personal projects like this, and to be able to be a part of it and to help 3 young filmmakers make their passion projects come to life. It's really exciting to help with that, and it's so much fun talking with you guys. Luke has been a great guest and friend. I've been lucky enough. I read the script for Reduced to Clear before you even started filming.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yes, you did.
And I was lucky enough to watch it, and I really enjoyed it. And I gave what I hope was some good feedback when you sent that to me. And I think it's a great project. It makes me excited to see what else you guys are going to do. I'm a believer. Thank you guys so much. That wraps episode 250. Big thanks to Luke Allen, Amy Munt, and Gareth Thomas. It was great talking to them, and we recommend everyone support the Indiegogo for Sweetheart, the URL for which can be found in our episode description and our Facebook page. Next time on the Cosmic Geppetto podcast, Dr. Anna Papard and Sarah Black join me to talk about the latest with Joss Whedon. That's gonna hurt. Till then, in the words of Jarf Arden,
see you in the funny pages.
Subscribe to the Cosmic Geppetto podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever quality podcasts can be found. Rate and review us while there. Follow us on Twitter at CosmicGPod, and we will follow you back. Unless you're a jerk. We don't follow jerks. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cosmic Geppetto. We love hearing your ideas for upcoming episodes. Email us at cosmicgeppetto@comcast.net.
she has a queasy look on her face. She's pregnant.
See you in the funny pages.
Subscribe to the Cosmic Geppetto podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever quality podcasts can be found. Rate and review us while there. Follow us on Twitter at CosmicGPod, and we will follow you back. Unless you're a jerk. We don't follow jerks. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cosmic Geppetto. We love hearing your ideas for upcoming episodes. Email us at cosmicgeppetto@comcast.net.
You don't need an intro. You're Thaddeus. You're the answer man.